My name is Bob Wesolowski. I serve in the United States Navy.
My name is Dale Strong, and I was in the United States Navy Seabees.
My name is Ken Livingston. I was in the United States Navy, enlisted, volunteer.
My name is Rich Melville. I was in the United States Navy.
My name is Eldon McAdams, and I served in the United States Navy 4 years.
My positions in the Navy were right out of boot camp. I went into the post office on board an aircraft carrier.
When I was on active duty in the onboard ship, initially I was the main propulsion assistant on board the USS Monticello.
I was an AT-2, second class petty officer. I worked avionics in an intermediate repair facility.
Well, initially, after boot camp, I went to communication school in Pensacola, Florida, and I became an R-brancher, which is you carry a top-secret clearance, and it was interesting. I went aboard ship, Vietnam, Northern Gulf of Tonkin, for about 6 months.
I was a aviation machinist mate. I wanted to be a pilot, but at that time you had to have 2 years college to be able to do that. I soloed when I was 16, but I have a private pilot license, but I still couldn't be a pilot in the Navy unless you got 2 years college back in the 50s.
I felt I needed a little more of an education than being a postal clerk, so I went back to school and I became a data processing technician, which is what it was called then. Today it would be a computer operator. I was a computer operator.
And then after a year and a half, I cross-decked over to the operations department, where I became the operations officer by the time I left the ship. Following my time on board the USS Monticello, I became a Navy recruiter in Milwaukee.
And then I cross-rated over into the Seabees and became a builder. Spent the rest of my time as a Seabee. Mostly, it was about 8 years.
I worked primarily on the components, communication components for the P-3 aircraft, and it entailed some of the IFF, Doppler, secure voice communications, crypto.
My job on board the Monticello as the main propulsion assistant meant that I had the main propulsion components of the ship. I had the main machinery spaces and the boilers. I had 60 people working for me, broken down into 4 different divisions.
So the Seabees are not a combat outfit in the sense that they go out and do advanced missions and seek out the enemy, that sort of thing. But if they're attacked, then they defend what they've built.
You also had collateral responsibilities, and as a collateral responsibility on board the ship, I was a boat group commander because we were an amphibious ship. And a boat group commander leads the first wave ashore.
And I did that at the component level repair in the depot facility, but every now and then we would be asked to go out on the flight line to assist with the actual aircraft repairs themselves for wiring and whatnot for communications.
1,000 people in there waiting to go to different ships, or wherever they're going. So they were reading off 100 names of this ship, 50 names of that ship, and 7 names to Westover Air Force Base, and then back to ships all day long. We wanted to go on a ship. We was only 7 people out of that whole drill hall that didn't go on a ship.
I think each teenager should look at all branches of service, decide which branch works best for them. Where do they fit best? What are they made up of? And find out, do some research on each branch of service to see. I was not an infantry guy, never had a desire to be on that front line. Army was not for me. The Marines, I didn't mind a haircut, but hey, I'd like a little bit of hair. Navy, I liked the way they worked, and that was the one that attracted me, and I did. I went and visited every recruiter. Do I think it's a good idea for them, any teenager, to explore the military as an option for them? Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing to join the Navy. It's a good experience. It's a good career too if you can get to doing what you want to. If I could got to be a pilot, I'd probably still be there if they would keep me there. But
when you're 17, 18, 19 years old, there's so much you don't know. Going off to college is very expensive. A lot of young people today, they enter in and they're not ready to go off to college. They end up spending a lot of money trying to figure out what they want to be when they grow up. You know, it gives them some time to grow up, and that they're gonna encourage that right along in basic training. Within those first couple months, studies have been done, and the maturity of an individual that joins the service typically matures about 2 to 3 years within those first few months of basic training.
You also have to be fairly smart, because whether or not you're carrying a rifle or you're running a radar, the technology demands that you have to understand it.
And what more of an opportunity when you get out to just go see and visit the world and explore those things that, you know, you may never get an opportunity in your life. There's always time for school, and they're going to teach you a lot of things along the way. You're going to have an opportunity to learn a career path or a trade. Oftentimes, some of the things you can use when you get on the outside as a civilian. Other things you can't. As a matter of fact, they discourage those things, but not too many buildings. They want you to be blown up, but there's a place for that too.
I enjoyed my time in the Navy very much. Well, it was worth it because it turned me into a man. So I went from a smart-mouthed young kid into a man who had respect for life, for the people I worked with, and even respect for those that don't earn it, but just a respect that for the fact that they're alive, that they have a right to breathe the air just like I do. Yeah, the military taught me a lot. Now, maybe I'd have learned some of those things as a civilian, but I question that. I know I learned it fast and hard. The military doesn't have a whole lot of room for slackers. You either get with the program or you won't be there long. They taught me how to act with honor in everything I do.
But they offer the GI Bill, and there's assistance to go and go on to college and take a career in whatever you want. And the government's going to help alleviate some of those costs and those burdens that otherwise you'd have to take on upon yourself. And that's just the financial aspect of it. But bigger than that is what you're going to learn. The opportunities, what you're going to see, and the friendships and relationships that you're going to build for the rest of your life. There's a patriotic side to it.
I felt it was the honorable thing to do, to go and defend our way of life.
You always be proud of the fact that you served your country and had that opportunity. So yes, I do encourage every teenager to look at each branch of service, determine if, which one's best for them, and spend some time. I would recommend it to my son, and it's not the path he's chosen, but it certainly wouldn't hurt him to make that decision and do that for a few years. Do one term and then go on to those other options available to him.
Yeah, it was worth it. I met my wife while I was in the Navy, so it was well worth it.
Want to talk about that?
Well, we were out chasing girls one night there in Connecticut, and we followed these girls into this diner, and one of them was my wife. That's where I met her.
The service the way it used to be in the 50s and 60s and 40s is not the service you see today. The service you see today means that you can't use drugs, you can't be an alcoholic, you can't be a felon, you must be responsible.
My military service changed me dramatically.
I don't know, morally I was changed. There was an eye-opener for me.
The people that I came back to visit when I was on leave were still home. They were still complaining about their girlfriends, and they were still complaining about their parents being mean and taking their car away. I've been overseas. I've been to Vietnam. I've seen things, you know, I've done things. You need to get out. You need to get out and visit the world.
There was so much that I didn't know in my little corner here in Michigan. Going out and seeing the world and having that exposure to other cultures, it was a shock. How people lived overseas, it was amazing the difference in what one culture accepted and what another did not, you know, as even courteous and polite.
I was 17, but I joined the Navy in 10th of January 1950, and February 20th I turned 18.
Basically, I was an inexperienced young man when I went in, didn't know a whole lot about life, had a problem with authority. You might ask, why did I enlist if I had a problem with authority? Well, I don't know. Maybe I subconsciously realized it and was looking for a way to correct it.
The experience, the discipline, what was expected of you as a military, you know, member. Yeah, you matured in those first few years real quick. In those first couple months, leaving basic training, you were a changed person at that point in time.
After boot camp, you become a human being again. When you're in boot camp, you're basically a squid. You're a nothing. You're a body in a uniform. And the point of boot camp is to see if you can hack it.
They handed you a set of orders and told you when to report, and that reporting date is when they expect you to be there, and you were there. There was no choice or reason for being. Like you were there, so you better have a real good reason otherwise. But you were dependable. You were part of a team, and you were expected to do your part to meet missions.
Part of it is the fact that because there are volunteers and because the pay has come up, what you're seeing is that people have decided to stay in the service for a longer period of time, so you have a more mature workforce. It really was amazing to me when I was on board ship. And I didn't see it when my father saw it, because my father, I took my father on a short overnight cruise that we took in order to exercise our weapons before heading back to Southeast Asia. And when he was heading back to Milwaukee with my wife, she said that he was just in awe of the way people work together.
I was in charge of probably 15, 20 guys in my division, and they all had to do their job. You had to be a smooth system that ran. It was very important to work as a team.
I learned to respect the NCOs just above me, and the officers, it took a little longer for me to respect officers. I had to actually see that they knew what they were doing. But eventually I came to respect even most of the officers I worked for. And the thing about the military is you respect your people above you and your chain of command. If you don't respect them as individuals, you respect the uniform, because we're all there to serve.